Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Pig and Pepper. The door led into a large kitchen full of smoke. The Duchess was sitting on a three-legged stool in the middle, nursing a baby. The cook was leaning over the fire, stirring an iron pan full of soup and shaking a pepper pot into it. The air was thick with pepper. The Duchess was sneezing, and the baby was howling and sneezing in turns. Only the cook was not sneezing. Neither was a large cat, which was lying on the hearthrug, grinning from ear to ear. "Why does your cat grin like that?" asked Alice. "It's a Cheshire cat," said the Duchess. "Pig!" Alice was startled. She thought the Duchess was addressing her, but it was the baby she meant. Then the cook took the pan off the fire and began throwing the soup over everything within reach. When it was all gone, she threw the poker and tongs, saucepans, dishes and plates at the Duchess and the baby. "Oh, please mind what you're doing," cried Alice, as a large saucepan lid whizzed past the baby's nose. The Duchess took no notice, but began to sing a lullaby to the baby. She threw it up and down as she sang, and gave it a violent shake at the end of each line. "Speak roughly to your little boy, and beat him when he sneezes. He only does it to annoy, because he knows it pleases." Chorus, in which the cook and the baby joined in. "Wow, wow, wow! Here, you may nurse it for a bit if you like," the Duchess said to Alice, flinging the baby at her as she spoke. "I must go and get ready to play croquet with the Queen." Alice could hardly hold the baby, it wriggled so. She carried it out into the open air and looked into its face. It had a very turned-up nose, and its eyes were very small. Suddenly it grunted. Alice looked at it in alarm. It had turned into a pig. She put it down quickly, and it trotted happily away into the wood. If it had grown up, it would have been an ugly child, thought Alice. But it makes quite a handsome pig. The Cheshire Cat. Next moment, she was surprised to see the Cheshire Cat sitting and grinning at her on the branch of a tree. "Do any other people live near here?" asked Alice.
"In that direction,"
said the cat, waving its right paw,
"lives a hatter. And in that direction,"
waving its other paw,
"lives a March hare. Visit either, they're both mad. We're all mad here. I'm mad, you're mad."
"How do you know I'm mad?" said Alice indignantly.
"You must be,"
said the cat.
"or you wouldn't have come here. Are you going to play croquet with the Queen today?"
"I haven't been invited yet," said Alice.
"You'll see me there,"
said the cat, and vanished. While Alice was still looking at the place where it had been, it suddenly appeared again.
"What became of the baby? I forgot to ask,"
it said. "It turned into a pig," said Alice. "I wish you wouldn't disappear so quickly. It makes me giddy."
"All right,"
said the cat. And this time it vanished quite slowly, beginning with the end of its tail and ending with its grin, which remained for some time after the rest of it had gone. "Well, I've often seen a cat without a grin," said Alice. "But I've never seen a grin without a cat before." The Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Alice easily recognised the March Hare's house when she came to it. The chimneys were shaped like ears, and the roof was covered with fur. At a table in front of the house, the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea, The Dormouse was sitting between them. It was asleep, and the other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head. The table was a large one, but the three were all crowded into one corner.
No room! No room!
They cried out when they saw Alice coming. "There's plenty of room," said Alice indignantly, sitting down in a large armchair.
Have some wine.
Said the March Hare. "I don't see any," said Alice, looking round.
There isn't any.
Said the March Hare. "It wasn't very polite of you to offer it then," said Alice angrily.
It wasn't very polite of you to sit down without being asked.
Replied the March Hare. Then the Hatter joined in.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
He asked Alice. "I believe I can guess that," began Alice.
Do you mean you think you can find out the answer?
Said the March Hare. "Exactly so," said Alice.
Then you should say what you mean.
The March Hare went on. "I do," Alice answered. "At least, I mean what I say, and that's the same thing, you know,"
Not the same thing at all.
said the Hatter.
You might as well say that I see what I eat is the same thing as I eat what I see.
You might as well say
Added the March Hare.
that I like what I get is the same thing as I get what I like.
Alice did not quite know what to say to this. Then the Mad Hatter took out his watch and looked at it. He shook it every now and then and held it to his ear.
2 days wrong.
He said.
I told you butter wouldn't suit the works.
He looked angrily at the March Hare.
It was the best butter.
Said the March Hare.
Yes, but some crumbs must have got in as well.
The Hatter grumbled.
You shouldn't have put it in with the bread knife.
The March Hare took the watch and looked at it gloomily. Then he dipped it in his cup of tea and looked at it again.
Let's change the subject.
He said.
I vote the young lady tells us a story.
"I don't know one," said Alice in alarm.
Then the Dormouse shall!
They both cried.
Wake up, Dormouse!
They pinched it on both sides at once, and the Hatter poured a little hot tea on its nose.
I wasn't asleep.
Murmured the Dormouse.
I heard every word you said.
Tell us a story.
Said the March Hare. "Yes, please do," said Alice. The Dormouse's Story. The Dormouse's story was about 3 little sisters.
Their names were Elsie, Lacey, and Tilly. They lived at the bottom of a well.
"What did they live on?" asked Alice curiously.
They lived on treacle.
Said the Dormouse. "They couldn't have," said Alice. "They'd have been ill,"
So they were
said the Dormouse.
very ill.
Have some more tea.
Said the Mad Hatter to Alice. "I haven't had any yet, so how can I have any more?"
You mean you can't have less?
Said the Hatter.
It's easier to have more than nothing.
Alice turned to the Dormouse. "Why did they live at the bottom of a well?" she asked.
It was a treacle well.
Said the Dormouse.
These sisters were learning to draw, you see.
"What did they draw?" asked Alice.
Treacle.
Said the Dormouse. "I don't understand," said Alice. "Where did they draw the treacle from?"
You can draw water from a water well.
Said the Hatter.
So why shouldn't you draw treacle from a treacle well?
"But they were in the well," cried Alice.
Of course they were.
Said the Dormouse.
Well in.
He was getting sleepy again.
They drew everything that begins with an M,
He went on drowsily.
such as mouse traps and the moon and muchness. You say things are much of a muchness? Did you ever see a drawing of a muchness?
"I don't think," began Alice.
Then you shouldn't talk.
Snapped the Hatter. This was too much for Alice. She got up and walked into the wood. When she looked back, she saw that the others were trying to put the Dormouse into the teapot.